You want me to put that on my todger?
This One's Wife, Scuttlebutt and Binge Watching. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This One's Wife and Harry are probably the most reported people in the world. This is a combination of the fact that this one's wife needs to pursue the prime aims and therefore needs to ensure such things as walking across a parking lot twice are recorded and pumped out to the press. That if she turns up at a hockey game, everybody needs to know that she was there. That if she does some little shitty charity thing, the world needs to know about it. And thus, time and time again, she doles out press releases through her agency in order to garner that press attention and public response which provides her with fuel. But it goes beyond that. The fact is, they're largely disliked as a couple, and that dislike becomes all the more increased. The most effective thing that people could do is not read anything in relation to them, nor watch anything about them, and that would cause the attention to dry up, and therefore much of the media would stop talking about them. But because there are so many people that have been invested in the story of the Sussexes, from the Suggars in terms of supporting them, and then from other people who basically want to see them crash and burn, they want to see what happens next, they want to see the inevitable divorce, they want to see her fade into obscurity because they really don't like her. The media knows this, and they know that by creating content, it will invariably be read, be watched, and be commented upon, and that's why they keep reporting on This One's Wife and Harry. Even publications that you would think ought to know better, such as the Telegraph and the Times, which are seen as broadsheets and ought to be dealing with more heavyweight news, report regularly on the Sussexes because they know that it gets read. And they also know that it prompts comment, not least in terms of, we don't want to know about them, why are you reporting on them, we're sick and tired of hearing about them. But it still prompts people to respond. And therefore, this results in This One's Wife and Harry being much reported on, either as a combination of her insistence that she is through the PR puff pieces and various publicity stunts that she engages in, and the media knowing that they're still very good for the clicks and advertising revenue, even though most people don't really like them. We regularly hear what the Daily Mail has to state about them, that the Times and the Telegraph, the Mirror, People, Hello, Tatler, and so forth. I also utilise snippets that come by way of commentary from various individuals within the arena of YouTube. But I thought I'd move to a different publication to obtain a different perspective, something a little more serious, known as The Hill. And Mark Toth and Jonathan Sweet both have observations about a Monty Shitshow Yankee in King Charles's court. Evidently, they write, finding freedom was not nearly liberating enough for the self-exiled Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Nor was dropping a bomb during their interview with Oprah Winfrey when This One's Wife implied that a then unnamed member of the British royal family was racist for having concerns over her son Archie's skin colour, an accusation from which Harry subsequently backed down, but only long after the damage had been done. Harry now maintains that there was only unconscious bias against Archie. Recollections really do vary. But now, directly or indirectly, in connivance with self-anointed royal expert Omid Scobie, the Monty Shitshow duo has apparently gone into full guillotine mode from a reputational standpoint. They are now seeking an endgame to the House of Windsor. It is as if Harry and This One's Wife are producing their own Hollywood version of Survivor, Buckingham Palace. It might make for amusing scuttlebutt and binge watching, were it not for the existential national security threats confronting both the United States and its closest strategic ally. In terms that Mark Twain would best understand, the last thing the British monarchy needs now is a Monty Shitshow Yankee in King Charles's court. Harry and this one's wife alongside Scobie are failing to read both the room and the world right now. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping are conducting an ideological global war against the West. That dystopian World War III is already kinetic in Ukraine and the Middle East, and its expansion towards Taiwan and the Indo-Pacific looms. Now is hardly the time for Hollywood-level narcissism, and certainly not of the type graphically on display in Spare and in Scobie's 2 books, not when the geopolitical stakes and security interests are this high. King Charles finds himself at an inflection point. The danger to the kingdom is coming from Holland, specifically a game-altering Dutch translation of Scobie's Endgame, revealing, according to Piers Morgan, Charles and Catherine, Princess of Wales, as the purported royal racists referred to during the Winfrey primetime CBS interview. In Twain's classic 1889 novel, A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, Harry Morgan, the American protagonist who has travelled back in time, quickly gains the trust of the mythical English king. In real life, however, Harry and his wife, this one's wife, have repeatedly proven themselves unworthy of King Charles's trust. Instead of burnishing Camelot, the Monty Shitshow pair appear hell-bent on burning it down. The Tower of London is no longer an option for King Charles. Even if it were, the presence of the crown jewels might prove too tempting, turning Harry and this one's wife into modern-day Jacobites. Still, other options exist to resolve the ongoing trouble with Harry and this one's wife, including stripping the prodigal son of his titles and former constitutional ties to the British royal family. Harry, of course, will always be King Charles's son, but the Duke of Sussex is no longer sufficiently trustworthy to be in the line of succession, especially when he, this one's wife, and others like Scobie, acting directly or indirectly on their behalf, are crassly undermining the sovereign on the world stage at every turn. Charles's visit to the United Arab Emirates, which began on Thursday, is illustrative of the havoc that Harry and this one's wife continue to create. The sovereign's appearance at the COP28 summit on climate change centred around environmental issues that Charles has championed since his earliest days when he was the Prince of Wales. Endgame, with its pernicious revelations, especially in the Dutch version now pulled off the bookshelves, is gravely undermining the very heart of Charles's reign. It is also weakening Charles where he and the royal family are needed most, the 56-member Commonwealth of Nations. The Commonwealth is actively under economic and military assault by Russia and China in Africa, the Caribbean, and the Indo-Pacific. This absurd and needless drama is not about Team Sussex or Team Wales. It is about what is best for Team UK, and that means sidelining Harry and this one's wife and their implied accusations of racism in the royal family, which are recklessly and foolishly giving Moscow and Beijing currency throughout the Commonwealth. Harry has had ample opportunities to put king and country first, choices one would think easy given that his father is king. Instead, he and this one's wife have repeatedly put both last. They subjected even the late Queen Elizabeth II, to say nothing of the UK and its citizens, to an unending cascade of childish soap operas. First came Finding Freedom, then came Oprah, then Netflix, and then Spare. The UK was then subjected to Harry and this one's wife's coronation drama, and now Scobie's dubious ode to the narcissistic Monty Shitshow couple. It is not just the UK's present that has been wantonly assaulted by Scobie and company, it is also the kingdom's future, given the attack on Prince William and his wife. Fortunately for the House of Windsor, Scobie's concocted characterizations of both fail to meet the eye test. Both William and Catherine have performed admirably in public and in support of King Charles. Even so, Scobie's malign words will undoubtedly soon appear in Russian and Chinese disinformation campaigns across the Commonwealth. Enough is enough. It is time for King Charles to implement a decisive endgame for Harry and this one's wife, and to remove the recalcitrant Yankees' constitutional royal titles. If they need to visit the United Kingdom in the future, book them an Airbnb. Whitehall ought to put the national security interest of the United Kingdom first and relegate the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to the ash heap of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. A strong view there from the Hill with regard to this one's wife and Harry, and how their behaviour can be utilised in a much more serious consideration with regard to the ideological global war being conducted against the West by Russia and China. Whether you accept that's valid or not, here's another view from a more heavyweight publication that once again sees how dangerous this couple can be and how pathetic their behaviours are. More criticism, but this time from a political perspective, to join all of the other criticisms of this one's wife and Harry. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.